الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه تبارك وتعالى في محكم كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد ضربنا للناس في هذا القرآن من كل مثل لعلهم يتذكرون. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
We are talking about the parables that Allah Azza wa Jal has set forth and has drawn for us in the Holy Quran. Parables are examples, are analogies, are similitudes, are allegories. Basically, anything that gives you a good idea about a matter, an affair that is profound, that is important, and gives you something to visualize, something to imagine that makes the issue clearer for you. Parables, as we have mentioned, is something that is found in the Bible as well. It is the sunnah of Allah Azza wa Jal to set forth parables for human beings. Last night we looked at the parable of how weak all besides Allah Azza wa Jal are, so much so that they cannot even create a fly, let alone creating a fly. They cannot even take back something from a fly. Tonight we want to look at another parable that Allah Azza wa Jal sets for us in the Holy Quran. And this is from Surah Ibrahim, ayah number 18, where Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَعْمَالُهُمْ كَرَمَادٍ اشْتَدَّتْ بِهِ الرِّيحُ فِي يَوْمٍ عَاصِفٍ لَا يَقْدِرُونَ مِمَّا كَسَبُوا عَلَى شَيْءٍ ذَلِكَ هُوَ الضَّلَالُ الْبَعِيدُ. In this verse of Surah Ibrahim, Allah Azza wa Jal is giving us another parable. This time He is giving us the example of the kuffar. مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. The parable of the unbelievers, of the disbelievers. أعمالهم كرماد اشتدت به الريح في يوم عاصف. These disbelievers, their a'mal, their good deeds are like ashes that are blown away on a very windy and stormy day. لا يقدرون مما كسبوا على شيء. They have no power over what they have done, what they have acted upon. The good deeds they have done are all blown away. ذَلِكَ هُوَ الضَّلَالُ الْبَعِيدُ. That is the greatest dalal. That is the greatest misguidance. That is the greatest error. Allah Azza wa Jal in this ayah is talking about the good deeds of the kuffar. This is a very important subject for us. We are living in a global village. We are living in cosmopolitan societies. We always deal with unbelievers. We always have to think about the question that is commonly asked and the comment that is commonly made. Look at these unbelievers. They are doing better than us. Their actions are better than us. What does Allah Azza wa Jal say about their actions? Their actions are like ashes that are blown away by the wind. Now, first and foremost, let us look at this word ramad, which Allah Azza wa Jal has used in this ayah. Ramad means ashes. Why did Allah Azza wa Jal use the example of ashes? Ashes, as we know, is what comes about when something is burnt. When you burn something, you get ashes. Why has Allah used the example of ashes? The scholars say it is because ashes are valueless, are worthless. And Allah wants to set an example about the good deeds of the kuffar. So He uses the example of ashes. The same way ashes are valueless and worthless, these good deeds also are worthless. Another reason why they use ashes is ashes, no matter how much you try to put them together, they always scatter. You can never bring ashes back together. You try and you'll find they keep scattering. Similarly, because these actions are done without iman, they are like ashes, they keep scattering. And the third thing that scholars say is that ashes are blown away into oblivion. Once the ashes are blown away, nobody can get them back. Nobody can collect them again. Similarly, when Allah Azza wa Jal says that their actions are like ashes that are blown away on a stormy day, fi yawmin asif. This is the example of the a'mal of the kuffar. Now, this ayah poses many questions, and inshallah tonight we want to answer some of these questions. But first and foremost, we must realize that this is not the only ayah in the Quran that gives you this understanding of actions being nullified and invalidated. There is another ayah in Surah Al-Furqan where Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَقَدِمْنَا إِلَى مَا عَمِلُوا مِنْ عَمَلٍ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ هَبَاءً مَنْثُورًا. About the criminals, about the mujrimeen, about the wrongdoers. On the day of judgment, Allah says, we will proceed to their actions and we will render their actions like scattered dust. This concept of nullifying and invalidating good deeds that are done by human beings is known in Islamic terminology, in Quranic terminology, as habtul a'mal. Habtul a'mal means rendering of the good deeds invalid. And it is not specifically for kuffar only. Although the parable that we are taking today is specifically talking about the kuffar, but the idea of habtul a'mal is for all, believers and non-believers alike. And that is why at one time our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he was talking to his companions and he was talking about Jannah. And he was saying that Allah Azza wa Jal is so merciful and He is so kind that whenever any one of you says Subhanallah, he is granted a tree in Jannah. Everybody amongst the companions had a huge smile on their face. Kenyans call it a wako smile. A huge smile on their face. We all have orchards in Jannah, Ya Rasulullah. Because we say Subhanallah so many times. The Prophet said, but whenever you do wrong actions and gунاh and misdeeds, you burn your orchards. You burn those trees that you have in Jannah. That is an example of habtul a'mal. So habtul a'mal is something that is a reality. It is there in the Quran. It is there in the riwayat. Now we want to ask this very important question. Why, O Allah, in your infinite mercy and in your justice, can you render all the efforts and the good works that are done by the kuffar invalid? You are telling us it is like ash. Somebody spends his entire life working for humanity. Just the fact that he does not believe in you, O Allah, you take his actions to be null and void. Where is the justice? And this is the question that we want to answer, insha'Allah, tonight. But before we begin answering this question, we need to lay the foundation by asking a very important age-old question. Is human being naturally good or evil? The primordial nature of the human being. Is a human being good intrinsically or evil? Which of it is it? If you say that the human being is naturally good, it means that if you leave him in his state, in his natural state, he will always be doing good and be attracted towards good. If you say that he is naturally inclined towards evil, if you leave him unattended, he will always be inclined towards evil. This age-old question has been addressed by philosophers for years. Plato, the Greek philosopher, in Arabic we call him Aflatun. Aflatun, in one of his works called The Republic, he gives a beautiful example. And he gives example in the form of a parable. The example is about the ring of Gyges. What is this ring of Gyges? In Greek mythology, there is a story that one day there was a shepherd boy. And as he was tending the flock, there was an earthquake that happened in his area, and that earthquake opened up a cave that was previously hidden. Now this shepherd boy, this is what Plato is telling us. This shepherd boy goes inside that cave, and he comes across a tomb, a huge tomb. And when he opens the tomb, he finds that there is a dead body in that tomb, and there is a very marvelous looking ring on the finger of that dead body. So that shepherd boy takes out that ring and he leaves the cave. He tries to put on that ring, and lo and behold, he realizes that this ring has a special power, the power of invisibility. Whoever puts on this ring is able to become invisible. So Aflatun is telling us that this shepherd boy who used to tend the flock used that ring and used that power of invisibility to enter the palace of the king, to seduce the queen, and to become the king of Gyges. And then Plato tells us that this is because nobody could see him. Then he asks the question, if you are given this opportunity, that you can do what you want and nobody will see you, will you still remain a good person or not? That means, if you can get away with anything, will you still be a good person or not? And then Plato says, I think not. I think not. Then, let us move forward. We come to the 17th century. A very important English philosopher, Thomas Hobbes, says the same thing. He says, mankind are beasts. We are beasts. The only thing that makes us civilized is society. We are only good because we are afraid. Olo subol se nea subol se bas. That is the only thing holding us back. The moment you can get away with it, then that beastly nature manifests itself. Now what does Islam say? Okay, this is what philosophers say. Come to Surah At-Tin. What does Allah Azza wa Jal say? لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ السَّافِلِينَ إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. Allah says we created the human being in the best fashion. Then we relegated him to the lowest of the low. The lowest of the low. أسفل سافلين. Except إلا الذين آمنوا. Except those who believe وعملوا الصالحات. The moment you have iman and amalus salih, then these are like two wings with which you can soar. If you don't have these two, then you remain where? Asfala safilin. Now, this is the introduction. Now we ask the question, why is the a'mal of the kuffar considered something worthless? Why? The answer that the scholars give is because they are kuffar, they do not do the good deeds for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. One who doesn't believe in Allah will not do anything qurbatan ilallah, will not do anything fi sabilillah. So all the actions they are doing are for other than Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah Azza wa Jal is a proud Lord. He does not accept any action that is not done for him. In Hadith Qudsi, he says very clearly, لا أقبل إلا ما كان خالصا لي. I don't accept anything except that which is done only for me. What is for me, I will take. What is not for me, I don't accept. And therefore, it is very important for us to realize that the niyyah is very important in actions. Why you do the action? In fact, it is more important than the action. The intention is more important than the action. Now, kafir does not believe in Allah, so he doesn't do it for Allah. And if he doesn't do it for Allah, then obviously it is worthless. It is like ash, to be blown away into oblivion. Interestingly, there is a riwayah in which we are told that when Iblis was told to do sajda to Adam, you know, Iblis said, "Ana khayrun min, khalaqtani min narin wa khalaqtahu min teen." I'm better than him. You created me from fire, you created him from clay. So he did not want to do sajda to Adam. The riwayah tells us that Iblis came to Allah with a counter offer. He said, "Oh Allah, I have worshipped you for thousands of years. If you excuse me from this command of doing sajda to Adam, I will worship you in a manner that none of your creatures have ever worshipped you. I will worship you in a manner that none of your creatures have ever worshipped you. Just excuse me this one command of doing sajda to Adam." Allah says, "No. You worship me the way I want you to worship me. I am ghani. I don't need your worship. I don't need your worship." Okay, so let us now look a little bit at ikhlas and niyyah. You want to say that niyyah is an integral part? Niyyah. All wajibat have to have the niyyah of qurbatan ilallah, otherwise they are not accepted by Allah, correct? Wrong. Wrong. We have some wajibat which even if you don't do for the sake of Allah, Allah accepts. Wajibat are divided into two. This is what we find the fuqaha saying. The fuqaha tell us wajibat are divided into two. We have wajib ta'abbudi and wajib tawassuli. Wajib ta'abbudi is any wajib act that we perform like salah and zakat and khums and fasting and so on and so forth. The niyyah of qurba is wajib. If you don't say qurbatan ilallah, if you don't have that niyyah, it is not accepted. But we have certain wajibat which are called wajibat tawassuliyah, where you don't need the niyyah of qurba and Allah accepts. Like what? Like if a person is drowning, it's wajib on you to save that person. Do you need to say, "I'm going to save that person qurbatan ilallah"? No. Go and save the person. Even if you save him because he owes you money, Allah will accept it from you. So we have certain actions. This is just tardan lil bab. This is just FYI. This is just by the way. Niyyah is an integral part of actions, especially when the actions are ibadi actions. And that is why we are told that when you do for other than Allah, even if it is mixed, 50% for Allah, 50% for other than Allah, Allah does not accept it. We have all heard the story for my younger brothers of that abid who was in the masjid on a dark night, a rainy night, all alone, reciting his salah. He was in the middle of the masjid, nobody was there, and he was praying at his regular speed, and suddenly he hears behind him some noise, and he feels somebody has entered the masjid. Now his salah changes, now his salah becomes longer, it becomes one with better makhraj, it becomes one with better recitation, and when he finishes his salah to turn behind, what does he find? He finds an animal has entered the masjid to seek shelter from the rain. So he prayed for the animal instead of praying for Allah Azza wa Jal. And we have numerous examples of this. We have numerous examples of this. A man from the Bani Israel, we are told, this anecdote is in Ihya'ul Ulum. From the Bani Israel, a pious man, one day he heard that a group of people had started worshipping a tree, and he decided, I cannot let this continue, and he took an axe and he said, I am going to chop down that tree. On his way to chop down the tree, who comes to him? Lo and behold, Shaitan comes to him in the form of a human being. He tells him, where are you going, O Bande Khuda? He tells him, I've heard there is a tree. The people are worshipping, I'm going to chop down that tree. He says, don't chop down that tree. He says, no, I must go and chop down that tree. He says, you are not a prophet. You have not been commanded by Allah. Why are you doing something that Allah has not instructed you to do? He said, no, I'm going to chop down that tree. When Shaitan saw that he cannot convince him with arguments, he decided that they will wrestle, and he wrestles with this man. And the riwayah tells us he's wrestling with this man, but because the man is very pious, he's able to overpower Shaitan. Now, when he pins Shaitan to the ground, Shaitan tells him one last thing. He says, okay, why don't I give you a better idea? I will give you every day 2 gold coins. You can give sadaqah with these gold coins. You will get more thawab than chopping down this tree. The man was poor, and he thought for a while, and he said, 2 gold coins every day? He said, yes, I'll put them under your pillow. Every day, 2 gold coins. He started thinking to himself, yes, I'll keep one for myself and one I will give in sadaqah. He said, fine. He left. He went back. The first night, he woke up in the morning. He looks under his pillow. Lo and behold, 2 gold coins. MashaAllah. He gives one in sadaqah. He keeps one for himself. Second morning, same thing. Third morning, he looks under the pillow. Nothing. Where are my gold coins? I am going to teach this man. He takes his axe again. He goes to chop down the tree. And the same Shaitan comes again in the form of a man, tells him, where are you going? I am going to chop down the tree. Again, they have that debate, discussion. Again, they wrestle. But this time, Shaitan pins the man to the ground. The man says, how is it the first time we wrestled 2-3 days ago, I pinned you to the ground. Just 2-3 days later, you are overpowering me? Shaitan said, the first day you went khalisatan liwajhillah. Your niyyah was pure. Today you are going to cut down the tree because you are missing your 2 gold coins. And so the importance of niyyah is something that cannot be overly emphasized. Our Mawla and Aqa Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, in the battle of Khandaq, when he is about to defeat Amr ibn Abdawud, what happens? All of you know. Amr ibn Abdawud spits on the face of Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Now all the Muslims are watching from far, and they are surprised because Amr ibn Abdawud was known for his heroism, for his valor, for his strength. People say that he would hold a camel by the legs and lift it up with his bare hands. This was Amr ibn Abdawud. And now, Amirul Mu'mineen has him pinned, almost about to kill him. Suddenly, he moves away. They are surprised. And only later, he defeats him and kills him. When he comes back, The Prophet asks him, what happened? And he says, he spat on my face. At that moment, I was enraged. I did not want to kill him. In a state where I had my own anger and my own rage, I wanted to kill him only for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the meaning of ikhlasun niyyah. How can kafir have ikhlasun niyyah when he doesn't believe in Allah Azza wa Jal? And when we open the tafasir, we find another example given by Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi in his tafsir. He says that even the best of actions that is done with the wrong niyyah is not acceptable. And then he says, look, for example, the issue of human rights. Human rights is so good. Human rights, caring for the rights of human beings is something that nobody can deny as being a very good thing, a very positive thing. Yet he says, look at those people who claim to be the flag bearers of human rights in the world today. When one of their people is imprisoned, they will raise hue and cry for their rights. But when they drop bombs on Vietnam, he mentions Vietnam in his tafsir. He says when they drop bombs on Vietnam and they kill thousands of people. Okay, Vietnam probably was before our time, before the time of many. Thousands of people. He said the blood on their hands, there is no thinking of human rights there. And we can see so many examples even in contemporary times about this issue. And so now, we understand that the reason why the value is not there in the actions of the kuffar is because they don't have the intention, the right intention. Question. But what about those kuffar who have done so much good? What about Edison, for example, the one who invented the light bulb and the electricity that we are using here even? What about Louis Pasteur, the one who was responsible for so many vaccinations that saved millions of lives? Are you trying to tell me that these people, because they were kuffar, their actions are no value in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal? Is this what you are trying to say? The answer again is provided by Ayatollah Makarim in his tafsir. He says, those who are kuffar do good deeds for three possible reasons. Number one, they do it for ill intention, with an ill intention, with a bad intention. For example, the invention of the atomic bomb. Yes, nuclear technology can be used for peaceful purposes, but that atomic bomb was invented for destruction, with a bad intention. He says, those who do for bad intention, we have no discussion. We are all in agreement that they will be punished for what they have done. The second reason why people who are kuffar do things, even if they are good deeds, their a'mal, is for worldly gain, for money, for recognition, for fame, for reputation. Then Ayatollah Makarim says, then that will be their lot in this world. That is going to be their reward in this world. If they have done it for fame, they will get their fame. They have done it for money, they'll get their money. But on the day of judgment, their a'mal will be valueless. And then he says, there are some exceptional cases where the kuffar do things selflessly, for humanitarian reasons, for love of humanity. There are those exceptional cases. And he says, those people fall into a bracket known as the muhsinin. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah can never disregard the good deeds of the muhsinin. So he may be kafir, but because his intention is purely selfless, because his intention is purely for the sake of humanity, then he falls into a third category known as the muhsinin. And that is why we find in the riwayat that one time our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he meets the son of Hatim Tai. You've heard of Hatim Tai. Hatim Tai was a man who was a disbeliever. But he was a very generous man. We are told in history that he was a very rich man, and he would every day do infaq. He would every day help the poor people. He would have 50 windows in his house, and he would give the fuqara from 50 or 40 windows in his house. From each window, that means the faqir would come to window number 1, he would be given from window number 1. That same person would come to window number 2, again he would give him, again he would give him. 40 times he would give the same faqir from different windows. This was Hatim Tai. Now when we see the masakin and we tell them, okay, stand in a line, we are giving you. Bana wewe unarudia wewe tena. Hatim Tai 40 times. So the Prophet meets the son of Hatim Tai. His name was Uday bin Hatim. He tells Uday, رُفِعَ عَنْ أَبِيكَ الْعَذَابَ الشَّدِيدِ لِسَخَاوَةِ نَفْسِهِ. The adhab has been taken away from your father because of his sakhawa, because of his generosity. Though he was kafir. So here we get a beautiful answer. It all depends on the niyyah. The kuffar generally do not do for Allah because they do not believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. But in that rare exceptional case where they do it selflessly, where they do it for others, Allah still rewards them. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, what is the opposite of kufr? We know kufr has many meanings. One meaning of kufr is when you are not grateful for something. Kufran ni'mat. You are not thankful. In this ayah, the kuffar are those who disbelieve. So the opposite of kufr here is belief. And belief comes in stages. The first stage is Islam. The stage after Islam is Iman. And Iman has multiple stages, has multiple darajat. لو علم أبو ذر ما في قلب سلمان لقتله. The hadith tells us if Abu Dhar knew what was in the heart of Salman Farsi, he would have killed him. Why? He would not be able to comprehend the depth of his iman. There are different stages. We are told Abu Dhar was in the 9th level and Salman was at the 10th level of iman. Only one level difference between the two. Still, there is this difference. And a person reaches a point where he becomes one of the awliya of Allah Azza wa Jal. Awliya is the plural of wali. Wali means friend. The thing is that when you see the person, you will not be able to know that this is the friend of Allah. He looks like a normal person. But Allah Azza wa Jal is very protective of his friends. He says in Hadith Qudsi, "Man ahana li waliyan, faqad arsada li maharabati." Whoever humiliates my friend, he has taken up arms against me. He is waging war against me. So when you are in society, that is why in Islam we are told respect everyone in the society, everyone. You never know, the person who is in front of you may be one of the awliya of Allah. Look for any excuse to respect that person. If he is elder to you, respect him, keeping in mind that he is elder than you and he has done more good deeds than you. If he is younger than you, respect him, keeping in mind he is younger than you, he has done less sins than you. If he is your age mate, respect him thinking that he is better than me. Remind yourself of your own sins when you talk to him. Unfortunately, in the society today, there is no respect. People don't even respect elders. And so, remember this keep this in your mind. You want to be amongst those who are in the bracket of the mu'mineen. You don't want to be in the kuffar bracket. So, mashallah, you are in the bracket of those who are believers. But there are darajat. Are you going to be satisfied being in the lowest level of Jannah? Do you know what the riwayat tell us? That when those who are in the lowest level of Jannah look up and they see those who are in the higher levels, they feel in their heart, oh, I wish I would have done more to get up there. Why the regret? And therefore, we should try our level best to improve our iman day by day. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. These are the days of azab, the days of sorrow, the days of sadness. We gather here in the Farsh Azza. We talk about Allah Azza wa Jal. We talk about the teachings of Allah, the teachings of Islam, the teachings of the Ma'sumin alayhim salam. This was the purpose of Aba Abdullah. Aba Abdullah gave up his life to save Islam. We are here because of him. And therefore, it behooves us also to shed a few tears remembering the masa'ib of Aba Abdullah. After Ashura, when the Qafila was taken from Kufa and then Kufa to Sham, from Karbala to Sham, the Qafila was taken on foot. You find that the Maqatil tell us that Sayyid al-Sajideen had to walk all the way from Karbala to Kufa and from Kufa to Sham. Not only that, he had chains in his hands and feet. Do you know what they used to do? When the Ashqiya would get tired, they would keep tents for themselves, but the Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet were made to stand in the hot sun. They were not allowed to enter the tents. As they were being taken, they passed by a city known as Asqalan. When they reached Asqalan, people were celebrating. People were making merry. They were saying the rebels have been killed. There was one man known as Zurair al-Khuza'i. He was in his shop in the marketplace. When he heard the rebels have been killed, he started asking, who are these people? He was told the grandson of Rasulullah. The moment he heard this, Zurair ran outside and he came to Imam as-Sajjad. Oh my Mawla, I did not know what has happened in Karbala. What can I do for you, my Mawla? How can you forgive me? He was insisting so much that Imam as-Sajjad alayhi salam said, okay, if you really want to do something, I have only two requests for you. The first request is tell those people who are carrying the heads of the shuhada to move forward so that the people may look at the heads and not look at our women. And then so Zurair goes to these soldiers. He gives them some money. He tells them to go in front. He comes back to the Imam. He says, oh Imam, what is your second request? The Imam says, my second request is, oh Zurair, if you can get some chadars if you can get some chadars for our women, wa musibata, the Ahlul Bayt have to ask for chadars. Zurair goes and gets some clothing and he comes and gives the Imam. Do you know, Azadarani Hussein, that after the death of Sayyid al-Sajideen, the riwayat tell us that the camel of Imam al-Sajjad would come to the grave of Imam al-Sajjad. It would rub its face on the grave of Imam al-Sajjad. The riwayat tells us Imam Muhammad al-Baqir would tell the companions, take back this camel. But the camel always kept coming back to the grave of Imam al-Sajjad until it died near the grave of Zaynul Abidin alayhi salam. Even the animals would cry for the Ahlul Bayt. But look at all the dhulm that was done by the Ashqiya. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. مات من حسين.